The Commentary Booth is a show for media lovers by media lovers just like you. If you want to support the show, go to jamiapsmedia.com. Welcome to the Commentary Booth, the ultimate weekly entertainment recap and review show. My name is Jamie Apps, and each week I'll be joined by a rotating cast of co-hosts to run you through the entertainment media we've consumed during the week. Along the way, we'll provide you with insightful commentary and reviews. This week I'm joined by an architect who lists his favourite movie as The Lion King, yes, the 1994 version, not the remake, and favourite TV show as Penny Dreadful. Welcome to the show, 1/3 of the Beer Latte Show, Nick Del Prete.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, thank you. How is the world in America?
You know, not too bad. Nothing crazy. We're this weekend, we're starting to open up movie theaters in select locations. So, luckily, nothing in New Jersey yet, where I'm from, but hopefully soon. As AMC is slowly to roll out openings.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to get back into the theaters. We've had them open for a couple of weeks now. I think since mid-July they've sort of started opening here, which has been nice.
Yeah, I mean, New Jersey has some of the most theaters compared to other states, but our governor's being very cautious and making sure they're all stay closed, where if I were to live in, let's say, Nebraska or something, some state with a smaller population, their theaters are all open.
Have they been doing what ours are doing, and sort of, you can, like, if you buy 2 seats, it makes sure all the seats around those, directly around those, are empty? Are they doing that over there? They're
saying they are doing 30% capacity, so I believe that's what would happen if you would buy a seat. Other seats around you would be completely empty. I have heard, though, that people have been buying like a full row, and but then filling that full row with like family and friends and all that, and some people have been leaving theaters due to that.
Okay. Yeah, so what we're doing is, like, you can buy as many tickets as you want, like, for your family, but say if I went and I took someone with me, if I buy 2 seats, the seats directly either side of us and the 2 seats in front and the 2 seats behind are automatically blocked out, so nobody can buy those seats.
Yeah, that sounds smart.
Yeah, it gives you a nice little buffer around yourself.
Yeah, I know also they're offering masks if you forget to come in with your mask, because obviously a movie theater is a timed event. You can't just run home and get it. So they are offering masks for like $1, and they're talking about doing staggered releasing, like after leaving the movie theater, so not everyone's jammed at the door when they go leave, doing almost like row by row to try to keep people socially distant away from one another.
Yeah, that's smart. I wonder if we'll start to see different movies come out with, like, you know how they do the themed drink cups and popcorn tubs. I wonder if they'll do the themed masks for their screenings.
That would be kind of cool, like a Star Wars mask, walking around wearing that.
Yep. So you're from the Beer and Latte Show. What is that one all about?
So the Beer Latte Show, we're a podcast. It's run by myself, my brother, and his wife. And what we do is we talk with each other, and also we usually have a guest on, and we talk about supernatural events, whether that being ghosts, aliens, mythological legends, anything that like people have experienced. We like to bring people on and share their experiences with everyone else, so that way we can learn from that experience and try to understand what's happening in the supernatural aspect of the world.
Yeah, so you had me on there as a guest, which was a fun episode, I thought.
Yeah, I really enjoyed our discussion.
Yeah, we started with the supernatural stuff, and then we quickly got sidetracked onto lots of movies and Australia versus America comparisons.
Yeah, we're all like kind of just When you're in the States, you are very distant from the rest of the world and knowing what's going on. So it was nice to like learn more about Australia.
So what have you been? You're obviously a big movie fan. What have you been checking out?
So this past week, I watched a new film talk about America. It's a new film that came out, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago at this point. An American Pickle. It dropped on HBO Max, but I think it will also be in theaters in other parts of the world. But it stars Seth Rogan playing dual roles, both as a great grandfather from 100 years ago and a current aged person from 2019, and it's really fun. It's a really fun movie. Yeah, it's a very short movie. It's only about an hour 30 long, but Seth Rogen is very amazing in this dual role because again he's playing his great grandfather who is a Jewish immigrant in 1919 who falls in a vat of pickle brine, and he gets left in there for 100 years. It's a ridiculous plot, but he gets left in there, and then miraculously in 2019 he comes back, and his only living relative is also Seth Rogen, who is a mobile app developer, but like a failed mobile app developer. And the funny thing is, when you see Seth Rogen as the main cast, you would think that's a comedy, but it's actually a very sentimental family story at the heart of it, talking about how the generational gap between now and 100 years ago, how the great-great-grandfather is very more family-oriented and very religious, while the present-day character is he's very a-religious. He doesn't care about family that much. He has a lot more of a me mentality, like looking out for himself, not looking out for others. And it's a really nice film. When you have two people playing a dual role, I was not taken out of it at all from seeing Seth Rogen in two different roles on the screen together. So they did a really good job at mapping the two together.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a sort of Seth Rogen comedy premise, but for it to be a different style and more heartfelt makes it seem a little bit more interesting than it otherwise would have been, I think.
Yeah, again, it's not what Seth Rogen's known for. He's known for is like Pineapple Express or This Is the End, or like those type of like big comedy movies. This one does have comedy in layered throughout, but it's just not like a joke a minute. It's like maybe a joke every like 6-7 minutes, but it's still a nice way to see Seth Rogen do this completely different style than what he's used to doing.
Yeah, well, did you say it was on HBO Max over there?
Yes, if you have HBO Max in the States, I know you can stream it. I don't know how HBO Max works in the rest of the world because it's such a new streaming service.
I don't think it's available here. I wonder if that movie's going to hit cinemas here now that we have them open, or if it's going to go to like a Netflix or maybe one of the other streaming services that we have available here.
Yeah, I think I did hear it was going to get a small movie release. I just don't know when. I would assume soon, though, if it's already out on streaming services and people are out there talking about this movie.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to keep an eye out and see if I can find where it is out here, because it sounds like something it is worth checking out and a nice sort of weekend movie.
Yeah, like I said, it's really fun. One of the things that I just found funny about it is that Seth Rogen wanted to do a real beard for this filming. So he filmed all like the non-beard, because the great-grandfather has a beard while current day doesn't have a beard. So he like filmed all the non-beard stuff first, then grew a beard and filmed all the rest of it. So it's really interesting that they were able to still cut this movie together so well, because it's not like you can quickly film another section once you decide to grow out the beard.
Yeah, I would have thought they'd have filmed it the other way around, do the beard stuff first and then shave it off and the next day come back and do all the non-beard stuff. But Strange that they decided to go that way and obviously have that gap in filming. Lucky to get everyone available again.
Well, yeah, it's also, there's not really a supporting cast. This is very much just Seth Rogen talking to himself, which kind of, when you think of the world as it is right now, I wouldn't doubt in the future if we almost see more films like this, where it's just like a one character on the screen in a dual role trying to, still do a movie. Because, again, there's no one else basically in frame with them most of the time.
Yeah, especially with sort of quarantine and cinema production sort of cutting back. I imagine there'll be a few of those movies being made at the moment.
Yeah, I know a lot of movies haven't opened yet. I think I heard like a few things. Like I think the Batman with Robert Pattinson just got the green light to start filming again. But most things I heard that got the green light are like in smaller island nations that they're filming anyway. So there's less cases there, so they can go and film.
Yeah, I know. Who was it? There was some actress flew down to Australia and had to do the forced 2 weeks hotel quarantine just so that they could begin filming down here.
Yeah, it kind of just stinks because a lot of filming does happen in the States. Right now, the States are not where you want to be filming a movie.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens with theatre releases over the next like year and a half, 2 years. I think there's going to be a big gap in what's available.
Yeah, I'm curious about that too. Like, are we just going to get, like, instead of a blockbuster summer, just a blockbuster year because all these movies got pushed back? And then, like, if they do just try to like push everything down our throats real quick, then yeah, because they haven't been filming for the past 8 months, there's going to be no new movies coming out if they don't time their release schedules right.
Yeah, like next year's looking absolutely stacked, but then what happens sort of November, December, January at the end? Is there going to be this big gap of only sort of indie, smaller titles?
Yeah, I mean, the theaters would probably still want that, though, because they're hurting for cash right now. So they would probably be okay with any movie coming their way.
I think the theaters will be pushing for that. Come back with a whole heap of big stuff so people continually come back for a couple of months. But
yeah, get a big cash influx real quick.
I have heard from a few people, though, that with cinemas here, like, the crowds have just been way down as sort of people are going and pretty much having a theater to themselves, maybe 2 or 3 other people.
Yeah, I could see that. I know here they also tried to push people to go back by doing 15 cent American cents movie tickets for classic films like Star Wars Episode 5, Back to the Future, The Goonies. Try to get people to want to go back. So, like, for classic films, they're offering, basically pennies to go see movies to try to just get people to be comfortable with going into a movie theater again.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably more come in, see these old movies that you like for pretty much nothing, and just sort of get used to being back in the cinema and see what changes we've put into place, and then come back and watch one of the bigger movies later.
Yeah, because there's still a lot of movies that like haven't changed their release dates, like Wonder Woman. What's that? 1984. That one, it's still set to come out in November, and it's like you gotta get people comfortable now if you want to get a movie that probably, if it came out in the summer like it wanted to, probably will gross $1 billion.
Yeah, they're sticking pretty hard on that release date, aren't they? They haven't wanted to slide much since the initial push.
Yeah, they pushed back from, I think it was supposed to come out in August. They pushed to to this new release date and just have been waiting it out.
And does Tenet have a release date over there yet? I know it's due here next week. So.
Yes, I believe it will also be out here next week, which is a little upsetting because I don't believe in my state I will have theaters open to go see it. So I might have to drive pretty far out of my way to go into another state that has open theaters just to go see it because I really want to see that movie.
Yeah, how sort of far is the trip if you had to go to check it out somewhere else?
Probably like hour and a half almost maybe 2 hours if I were to leave New Jersey.
Okay, so it's doable. It's just not preferable.
Yeah, it's like to drive 2 hours to watch a 2 hour movie and then drive 2 hours back. It's a whole day.
Yeah, sort of go in the afternoon, have dinner, watch the movie, drive home, get home late.
Yeah, it's definitely would be an event, but it's a Christopher Nolan film, so it's an event within itself.
Yeah, it's almost worth the adventure.
What have you been watching over on your end?
For me, I know it's been out for a long time, I finally sat down to watch The Boys Season 1, which is the Amazon Prime exclusive based on the comic of the same name, and it's sort of centered around superheroes and a team of vigilantes, but it's in this grounded world based in actual reality, and it's like hyper violent, and it's sort of a more realistic depiction of what superheroes would be like in real life, with corporations monetizing and managing everything about the superheroes, and the superheroes are kind of narcissistic jerks because they can sort of just do what they want and get away with whatever they want.
Yeah, I watched The Boys back when it first released because I had all my friends jumping on me, like, "Oh, you gotta watch The Boys. It's like what superheroes would be like if it was, they were to actually exist in today's society."
Yep.
And it's very much it's a lot of narcissism and a lot of empty promises, which when you have all that power is what you would expect.
It absolutely is what, if someone as powerful as Superman existed, they would be. It's just like, I can do what I want when I want, and there's nothing anybody can really say or do about it. And then you have those corporations just seeing that and realizing the potential to make billions and billions of dollars off it, so they do whatever they can to get involved.
Yeah, the superheroes definitely have like a god complex attached to all of them.
I loved that they were all like parodies of classic Marvel and DC characters as well.
Yeah, you had your Supermans in there, your Batman, your Aquaman, Wonder Woman, they were all in there.
Yeah, so you have Homelander, who is obviously Superman. The Deep is Aquaman. Queen Maeve is obviously Wonder Woman. Got a Flash ripoff in A-Train. And then the group of characters known as the Seven is obviously like the Avengers / Justice League type outfit. And it's a hyper-violent show. Like, they show some pretty graphic elements in that show.
Yeah, within the first, I would say 5 minutes, like, my jaw was already on the floor. I was like, I did not expect this show to start off like that. And then you'd think, like, oh, that's just a hook to get you in. No, it stays there the whole time.
Yeah, you definitely think, oh, well, that's... okay, I know what I'm in for here, and you don't expect it to stick around, but it definitely does. And then it's pretty sexual in moments. It's pretty graphic.
Yeah, they don't shy away from anything. Like every topic is open for them to attack and to like basically explicitly show on screen.
Yeah, the moment that sort of stuck out as pretty over the top for me was the moment with the Deep and the girl that he takes back to his apartment when he gets sent to the crappy town.
Sandusky, Ohio.
Wow, what a scene.
Yeah, that was messed up. And it was kind of interesting because at that point, they're trying to almost redeem the Deep because the Deep has already done pretty terrible things. And to me, it almost works. I almost feel bad for the guy by the time that scene is over.
Oh, it definitely is a turning point for the character, but I still kind of think he's a bit of a clown to begin with. Like, just the way he acted in that first episode, you're like, really? You are the worst person here.
Well, yeah, once he did that, I was like, all right, I don't care about this guy anymore. And then when they tried to redeem him, I was like, I know what you're doing, but I still don't like him. Like, you can try to make, and there were other scenes that like he kind of, after he did that one scene, he kind of just continually got punched down. And it's like, I know what you're trying to do, but he's still a jerk, and I still don't want like him around. And
I love that they gave like the superhero that everybody always craps on to begin with. They made him the sleazy, gross character that nobody was going to like, no matter what.
I think the level of detail of the show is amazing because with the Deep, his whole like one thing that like is always about him is he's like the environmentalist of the group as well. He's like he like films commercials about picking up trash on the beach. But then in a later episode, and this was only for a second, they show him at a gas station, and what's he doing? He's putting gas in a Hummer. So it's even like something you think he would be like on board of like cleaning up the environment is completely like shot down with the fact that it's like no, he doesn't actually like he doesn't care about his message, and it's just like that just goes like every superhero there, they don't care about their message. They're saying these empty promises to get people cheering.
Yeah, they're all just spouting like corporate written speeches, and none of it is actually real.
Yeah, exactly.
Season 2 is due on September 4th, which is sort of what spurred me on to be like, okay, I need to finally sit down and watch this. I've heard plenty of good reviews. Season 2 is coming out. Let's jump on board. And I saw this week that they've also renewed the show for a third season before season 2 is even out.
That's a big move. They're really expecting this to continually kick off, which I think it will.
Oh, if season 2 continues the way season 1 did, I can't see why it won't continue on the same path of picking up more and more viewers. And they as part of that third season announcement, they added Jensen Ackles from Supernatural, so they've obviously got pretty big plans for season 3 as well, to be adding someone as recognizable as him.
Did you hear how they're releasing season 2 though? Like on September 4th, they're dropping 3 episodes, but then they're going weekly after that.
Oh, they've shifted to that release schedule. I'm not a fan of that for this show.
I'm a little bit. I can be a fan of that. It does help. It helps, I think, keep the show in the conversation instead of something that, because season 1 was only 8 episodes. You could binge that in a day.
Yeah, I finished. It took me ages to sit down and watch it, but I finished it in a weekend.
Yeah. So it's like, if you want something to stay in conversation, you gotta jump to a weekly release. Because it was the same thing when like Stranger Things season 3 dropped. I asked all my friends that are like big Stranger Things fans. I was like, can you explain what happened in season 2? And it was just all silent. Because no, you watched it in a weekend. Of course you can't explain what happened. You watched it in a weekend a year ago.
Yeah, you don't take it all in properly because you are just powering through this. You're not actually enjoying each moment. Yeah,
so I think, I mean, everyone's going to be upset that it's going weekly, but I think in the long run, it's going to be, because then you can just be like, oh my God, did you see last night's episode? Like, I can't believe Homelander did this. Instead of before you kind of wait for someone to watch the whole season, and then you go, well, what did you think of the whole season?
Yeah, at least now people can actually talk about each episode. It's not, okay, I need to just not say anything until everybody else is finished. I'm excited for season 2, and obviously I would have loved to get the whole lot in one hit, but 3 episodes to kick it off, I think that'll be enough to sort of satisfy that urge, and then I can just happily tee up an episode a week.
Yeah, it'll be nice to be like, it's almost, you get excited. You're going to get those 3 episodes. You're going to get like that adrenaline rush of like, yes, the boys are back. And then you're going to be like, oh, I have to wait like 6 days. But then like, when it's like, oh, I can't wait. Like the boys is coming back in 2 days. So you're going to get that excitement that I think when you binge something, you lose that excitement. It becomes more, you just want to get through it. You're just trying to get through it instead of like being excited that it's going to come soon.
Yeah, that's like with this new show I've started watching on Apple TV, the Ted Lasso comedy series. Like, it did the same thing. It kicked off with 3 episodes, powered through all of those, and I was like, okay, I'm in for this, and I'm happy to get it week by week, as every Friday afternoon it's like, oh, sweet, there's a new episode of Ted Lasso out. There's half an hour, just nice little giggle. Yeah,
exactly. I was the same way, like, last year when The Mandalorian dropped. You were just like, oh, okay, like new Mandalorian episode every Friday. It's like, great. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's more of a just people need to be prepared for it and get used to it again. Like, we all used to watch TV that way when watching it on TV was the only option that you had.
Yeah, like that's the normal way to watch shows. It's just like Netflix just like kind of has now conditioned us to be like, oh, a new season is out instead of a new episode. And it's like, no, it's like, remember, everyone always queued on Game of Thrones at the exact same time every Sunday to watch the new episode of Game of Thrones. And it's like, we can get back to that lifestyle again if we wanted to.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how many people sort of live tweet the boys each week.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, yeah, with binging, live tweeting is dead. And it's like, but that's a lot of just free publicity for your show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's smart for a show to go that way. They can have people every weekend be like, okay, they get a whole sort of weekend of free press, basically. Have you checked any other things out this week?
Yeah, I checked this small little indie film that it was in the indie market in 2019, but finally got a VOD release this summer called Yes, God, Yes. And it's a nice short film. It's literally an hour and 17 minutes. I've listened to podcasts longer than this film.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's real short, but I like short films because you gotta get to the point. Like, you gotta make sure it's tight and everything is there and can be decisive. So it stars Natalie Dreyer. If that name's familiar, she's the older sister in Stranger Things. It stars her playing as a teenage girl in some Midwest state in America where it's very Catholic, and she plays a Catholic schoolgirl starting to understand. It's a coming of age film centered around female sexuality and discovery within a Catholic community in a small town. So it's very humorous because of the fact that it's just like, it's that coming of age, but it's also like, don't masturbate, like, because Jesus is watching and stuff like that. But it's still like very wholesome because Natalie Dreyer plays this like very almost like dumb character, like a girl that doesn't know anything. Like, there's a running joke throughout the whole movie about tossing salad. And she asks almost everyone she knows, what does that mean? And everyone gives her a different answer. And she's just confused the whole film because of this one phrase. And it's like it's a cute film like that. It's like very delicate. It doesn't do too much of it doesn't throw too much of like Christianity down your throat, but it doesn't get way too hypersexual where it just sexualizes Natalie Dreyer and the other characters. But so yeah, she's in Catholic school, and she goes to a weekend a weekend Catholic course or whatever. I don't know what they do, but she went to like Catholic camp for the weekend as a way to try to like understand God better. But while she's there, she like learns that everyone has secrets, and everyone is just trying to figure out, how to go about the world, and no one has the answers. Like, even her priest doesn't have the answers. So yeah, it's this very humorous and wholesome film that's, again, nice and short. And actually, it started as a short film, and that Natalie Dreyer was attached to. And then it started doing well in the indie market, and then they're like, all right, let's make a feature film of this. And I don't know how short the short film was because they went to a feature film, and again, it's only an hour, 17 minutes. So to me, that's still a short film.
Yeah, I think there's been Game of Thrones episodes that were longer than that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, I've seen TV shows longer than this movie, but to me, again, that makes it nice because you could watch this thing that's very, very uplifting, very joyous, and nice and short. Like, you could pair this with another movie if you want to. It's not killing your whole day. Yeah,
and it makes sure that everything that's in the movie is there for a purpose. There's no fluff or filler.
Yeah, like every line of dialogue is important. Every scene is important. There's nothing there. Nothing pads this runtime, which, I mean, I've seen a lot of films that's like, all right, we probably could have cut 30 minutes of this if you wanted to. There's nothing happening here.
I think some of the Star Wars movies were like that. They could have cut big chunks of that out.
Especially the most recent trilogy and even like Solo. You definitely, there are films that could have gone through the editing process like one or two more times.
Yeah, I think one was this the Star Wars one where they went to that casino planet. That whole section could have just been cut out, and I wouldn't have lost anything.
Episode 8, I think. Yeah. That one. Yeah, that was like so boring.
That was the one that, like, it was at that moment I was like, this new trilogy is dying before my eyes.
Yeah, it was like somehow Star Wars, which I mean the prequels already almost killed, but then at least like the animated series Clone Wars at least kept life alive in it. But then this new trilogy, yeah, it was like, oh god, maybe we should have left Star Wars with the original trilogy and just not done anything else.
Yeah, so episode 7 was like, oh, we're on the right path here, and then episode 8 was just like, what have you done? How did we just get so off track?
Yeah, and then episode 9 tried to like pretend episode 8 never happened, which I think made it even worse. You could have just went along with episode 8 and made it even stronger, episode 9, but they were like, no, let's just remember episode 7.
Yeah, I think them trying to retcon so much out of 8 kind of hurt 9 because they were too focused on fixing problems rather than just what is the story we're trying to tell here.
Exactly. Yeah, very much. And again, that made episode 9 something you could there was a lot that could have been cut out, but they were just trying to retcon so much instead of just going with what 8 set up.
On the opposite end of you, like, rather than indie films, I checked out a pretty big budget one that's on Netflix at the moment, Project Power. It's a Netflix original starring Jamie Foxx, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Dominic Fishback. And then it's got cameos from Machine Gun Kelly, Rodrigo Santoro, Courtney Vance, and Casey Neistat. So it's got a pretty stacked lineup of cast members.
Yeah, that Casey Neistat cameo, that surprised me. I didn't think he was in the movie.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere. I was like, oh, what the... I was like, why do I know that guy? And I couldn't think of who it was for so long. And then I was like, oh, it all of a sudden clicked, like, once they got into that nightclub. I was like, oh, that's who that is. So yeah, the movie's about a shadow corporation who's secretly testing this new drug in New Orleans, which gives the people that take it superpowers for 5 minutes, and each person, depending on their DNA, gets given a different power. So some people, like Gordon Levitt's character, become bulletproof. Others are invisible. There's a lady that becomes like an ice queen. She can just freeze everything, including herself. Machine Gun Kelly becomes like this human torch that just runs around on fire and is impervious to fire. And yeah, it's just like obviously a big budget movie. There's heaps of CGI, which is actually done really well and makes for an interesting watch.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting a lot from it. Obviously, with the cast, I was like, it should be okay. But then the premises, I was like, oh, this is going to be pretty generic and over the top, which it is, but it was a fun watch.
Yeah. I'd say also it's almost comparative to The Boys, but like this one's very gritty in how superpowers would actually work in the real world. The Human Torch character, every step he put the whole building on fire, not meaning to. Like every step was like, every step there was a fire footprint.
Yep.
That's something that would have if you watch the Fantastic Four, yeah, Human Torch just flies around on fire. Like, no, it's not an issue. It's like, no, it would be an issue if like someone was just in fire in the middle of a building.
Yeah, like he's running on this old lady's carpet and is burning her carpet, and then everything's just catching on fire.
Yeah, that was like the one thing when I watched this film, I was taken by surprise about, because like there are a lot, like there's not just like the Human Torch character. you're able to see like what the Hulk would be like, what Mr. Fantastic would be like, what Iceman would be like in like a real setting. And like I was like, oh, this is like this is unique. Even like they even did a nod. Well, I say it's a nod to like Wolverine towards the end, and it's like that's what it would actually be like, and how actually dangerous superpowers would be in the real world.
Yeah, I love that. Like all the powers are based on like genetic evolutions and different animals and stuff. Like it made it seem much more realistic and possible to have those powers within people.
Yeah, and like it wasn't bogged down by exposition. It was kind of like you learned how these pills worked and how they were scientifically made through like one-liners. They're almost like you could miss explanation because it was just like as the story progressed, you just learned little bits and pieces, which was nice. You don't need a character that's just an exposition dump. You can just do bits and pieces here, and you can learn the story throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, like, and there's some pretty cool powers too. Like, obviously that Wolverine one is a cool nod, and like it looks like the most painful of the powers to get, I think.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, he was in a lot of pain when the claws came out, and it's like, yeah, that's what it'd be like if you're ripping your skin off like that.
Yeah, your bones are just expanding through your wrists. And I read this morning that it was, when it dropped on the 14th of August, it was the top streamed movie on on Netflix. So it obviously, with that cast, managed to capture a lot of people's attention.
Yeah, and the movie felt nice too. Like it felt like a blockbuster movie, something this year we've been missing. Like because we couldn't see Black Widow yet, or any of the DC Marvel movies yet, or like even Fast and Furious 9 came out, and like these big spectacle movies. But this felt like a big spectacle movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the sort of CGI elements, like they were all done really well.
Yeah, you could tell. I think I saw the movie was like 85 million. And you could tell they spent that money on CGI and on the cast, which is exactly what you needed to do.
I wonder if this was one of the ones that Netflix was, like, you know how Netflix has been starting to put movies out in the cinemas? I wonder if this was one that they had intended to do that, and then because of everything that happened with the coronavirus, they've sort of had to shift it back to just a regular Netflix release. Because this feels like one that would have been up for a cinema release.
Yeah, not only that, because I feel like Netflix usually does that to get into the Oscars, but I think this one will have been a movie. Like it will have got a nomination, I think, for visual effects. Like it has some. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of 2020 movies, obviously, because of how the world has turned out, but it's one of those movies that in 20 like it will have gained that respect of a visual effect movie.
Performance from Dominique Fishback was a bit of a standout. I think that's probably going to be a breakout performance for her moving forward.
Yeah, I feel like she almost carried the movie on her back. Like I think she was out acting she was definitely out acting Jordan Levitt. But even Jamie Foxx at some points, I think she was out acting him.
Yeah, and her rap sequences are pretty awesome as well. So I think she's going to go pretty far after this movie. I can't imagine she won't get another big role somewhere else.
Yeah. I'm really gonna start to follow her career now, because I think she's definitely gonna be going places. Whatever. Like after a role like this, it's almost like whatever she wants.
Yeah, I'll be shocked if she doesn't get a leading role somewhere now.
Yeah, exactly. She deserves it. Again, I was like, oh, Jamie Foxx, and I was like, I'm drawn to these big name characters, and she's like, no, this is my movie.
Yeah, those big names definitely draw people in, but then she just takes over and wins people's hearts.
Yeah, we're like another Netflix film, like The Old Guard. Charlize Theron was the big name in the movie, and she held the whole movie. And I really didn't even know the other actors, and the other actors didn't like do anything to me that like made me want to know more about them.
Yeah, that's sort of a similar vibe that I got with the other movie I checked out this week, Snowpiercer, which has Chris Evans as the lead character, and he is very obviously the lead character. He kind of carries the whole movie. There's Tilda Swinton and Octavia Spencer and Ed Harris are also in the movie, but it's really all about Chris Evans' character.
Yeah, his acting range in Snowpiercer is he does everything: high action, hurtful drama, like very. It's all there. He's hitting all the points.
Yeah, it's another movie that sort of I'd been hearing a lot about it, and then when I saw that they were making the TV show adaptation, like, okay, I finally need to check this out. And when I also realized that it was a Bong Joon-ho from Parasite fame, when it was his English language debut, I was like, right, yeah, definitely need to check this out. So I went back and watched the 2013 science fiction movie.
Yeah, when I watched this, I didn't even know who Bong Joon-ho was. I watched the movie in like 2015, a year after it came out, and then it wasn't until like years later with Parasite, and I was like, oh, I really like Snowpiercer, and like he's doing Parasite, and I watched Parasite. I was like, oh wow, and then I went on a whole Bong Joon-ho fix to watch all of his films.
Yeah, he's a really, really good director. Parasite has set a very high bar for his next one, I think, though.
Yeah, I even heard, like, when Parasite was released and out, like, it was compared to this film, where Parasite talks about hierarchy and class hierarchy vertically, with the one family living, like, in the lower levels of a house, and the characters have to always go up and down stairs. Snowpiercer talks about class hierarchy vertically, or horizontally, with everyone in the back of the train being lower class and the front of the train being higher class.
Yeah, so the film takes place on board the Snowpiercer train, which is this train that was built following a failed global warming remedy where they put this chemical into the atmosphere to try and cool the Earth, but it had too big an effect and they froze the entire planet. So now the remaining remnants of human life are aboard this train, which goes on this continuous loop around the world, which takes 365 days to complete. Not entirely sure why it had to be exactly a year for a whole lap.
Like, why couldn't they just like do a circle in one country? Why do they have to go to every country?
Yeah, that part was a bit weird, but apart from that, it's all about like, yeah, class structure, and people are assigned to a class and a role based on some arbitrary means of whether they were put on the train from the looks of it. And then, yeah, that obviously leads to this uprising and revolution from the people at the back trying to get to the front to take over the train and reform the class structure.
Yeah, and like there's hints that this wasn't the first revolution. There's rebellion. There's been multiple rebellions to try to take over the train.
Yeah, it had like similar themes and made me reflect on The Platform, which is another movie on Netflix.
Yeah, the platform is also a really good film.
Yeah, I think this one was probably more enjoyable than The Platform, whether that was because of the language barrier or just because this one had a bit more action and stuff happening. It definitely kept my attention a bit better.
Yeah, I think this is another one of those examples, Snowpiercer, that is of being just a more tightly put together film. Like The Platform, I think could have also gone through like one or two more rewrites to like get the themes more concise. Where Snowpiercer, when you have Bong Joon-ho, like anything he does is a masterpiece.
Yeah, I loved it because it's built around that global destruction event, but it doesn't make that the centerpiece. it's more about what's happening now on the train and the tension that's built up over the years, decades, because of the classism that has been instilled within the passengers.
Yeah, that's one thing I like thoroughly enjoyed. Like he chose to make sure it wasn't like 1 year after the destruction of the world. Like I think I heard in the film it's been 17 years. So it's like he made sure like to choose later on into the future how would like all this tension has now built up to the point of like of a breaking point, instead of just doing like year one when like people might still have hope of the world getting better, or or even just have an idea of the past, what it used to be like. There are multiple lines about how people have now forgotten what the world used to be like before snow, and even there's one character who is a train baby. She was born on the train. And it's like there's a whole new generation coming on that are just from the train.
Yeah, like there's a whole generation that just think this is how it is and you're in this spot and that's where you stay, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the case.
Yeah, and especially like a lot of apocalypse films, which this basically is, they do all they want to do is try to get back to the way things were. But it's like it's been 30 years. What are the way things were anymore? Like this is the new way of life. It's almost like it's something The Walking Dead I think always does. It's like, oh, we gotta get it back to the way things are. But like the apocalypse has been going on for 20 years. Like this is the way things are now. Make a new world instead of just trying to get back to the old world.
Yeah, and I think that's a theme that is sort of really poignant at the moment, where people are talking about, oh, let's get back to normal, but everybody else, there's other people being like, no, this is like, this virus has drastically changed the world. We need to have a new normal now, and staying home when you're sick or wearing a mask when you have a bit of a cough, like that has to be the normal now. We can't go back to what we were before, where people are like, oh, I've got a bit of a sniffly nose, it's okay, I'll go to work.
Yeah, exactly. The old normal is not good enough, and a lot of people, and like it's just now at the forefront that a lot of people are like, the way things were should not have been how they were.
Yeah, and like now that this show, this movie has been developed into a TV show, I'm sort of interested to go and check that out and see how it carries the themes through as well.
I've actually seen the TV show, and I could say it's very good. They do change a good amount compared to the movie, but of course, when you're talking a TV show, you gotta change enough to be able to go on for seasons. So they had to like just rework. Like one of the big changes might have been in the movie. There's 100 cars. In the TV show, it's 1,000 cars. So it's just like you need more cars to make the TV show longer.
And does the TV show sort of follow the same idea of the people at the back trying to revolt and get to the top?
Yeah, there's still the people in the tail that want to not be in the tail anymore, that don't want to be treated like lower class citizens. The other big changes in the TV show, I think it's been 3 or 4 years, so it's very early post-apocalypse compared to the movie, which is late into the apocalypse. So it's like they're still trying to get their bearings on what it's like in this new world.
Okay, so is the TV show? It sounds like it could have been based on like. In the movie, they mentioned the revolt of the Seven. Is it sort of similar to that?
Yes and no. The first season, I would say, Kai, would be yes, because the TV show does have a revolt of the Tails. They do revolt, but there's also a crime drama that's like the revolt is almost the B story, and there's this crime drama about like, oh, it's the first time like a murder happens on the train. It's the first time in like 2 years or something that there was a murder. So they had to take a guy from the tail, your lead character, played by Daveed Diggs, You might know him from Hamilton or from like Blind Spotting. He's a detective from Chicago, and he like still know, like there are a lot of people that still know their old occupation, like in the tale still. So he's trying to solve this murder while also trying to help the revolt however he can from being in upper class now looking at this murder. So he's like sending encrypted messages to the tail, like how to revolt, where they need to go, what cars have what in them to help them get a map of the train.
Okay, yeah. It definitely sounds like something I'll have to check out over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's very enjoyable.
And you watched one other thing this week?
Yeah, I watched an older movie from 1990, Total Recall. I feel like a lot of people should know of Total Recall. It's a Paul Verhoeven film, who is, in my opinion, one of the best filmmakers of our generation. He has also made films like Showgirls, Starship Troopers, RoboCop, very very like high name films. This film stars Arnold Schwarzenegger in like the height of his career in 1990, playing as the everyday man, even though he's Arnold. Like, there's no everyday man that looks like Arnold. But he's playing the everyday man who is bored about his life, and this is in the film takes place in the future where there's already a colony on Mars, and he's bored about his life on Earth, and he wants to go on vacation on Mars, and his wife tells him no. So what does he do? He goes to a place where you can have memory implants, and he asks for an implant of a vacation on Mars. But there, instead of getting a vacation on Mars, they upsell him to be a secret spy in Mars, a memory implant. So he gets this memory implant of being a spy in Mars, or they try to implant them, but then they find out that his mind has already been wiped, and he actually is a secret a spy from Mars. So, and then like it all plays out, and it's a very cool film. Of course, when it's Paul Verhoeven, he's criticizing something in America, because he's from Holland. He was born in like Nazi occupied Holland. He's a very terrible backstory. Like, he saw like bodies laid on the street, just like destroyed, houses next to his get blown up. Like, he's seen some graphic stuff. So, and he started making films over in Holland, and then they forced him to stop. They were too graphic for Holland. So then he moves to America, and he's actually surprised about the American films. He sees them as like he could get away with a lot more. He sees American films as like as 10 times worse than anything he did over in Holland. So a lot of his films have very intense, very over the top violence in them. Whether it be like anytime someone gets shot, their basically whole arm blows off. There's no easy way to get shot in a Paul Verhoeven film. And but he's also, from his time in America, there are times he would criticize things about it. And Total Recall, I would say, just kind of criticizes the government of America and corporation, how they can sell you anything. One of the major plot points is in Mars, there's one guy that controls it, and he sells air to people. And he has the power to just turn off air to whole sectors, making it unable for them to breathe. And it's like, and there's just all that criticism going on within this film.
I know it was also remade there was a remake in 2012, or like a reimagining. Have you checked that one out as well?
I have not seen the remake. I've heard nothing good about it, which is why I didn't see it. I've also didn't see the RoboCop remake because I heard nothing good about it. So it is I know eventually I will, but when you have the original, usually you just gotta stick with the original.
Especially when it was only 22 years later. Like, it's not That's not all that long to go and make a remake of something.
Yeah, remake a black and white film. Don't remake something that's from the 90s. Like, people will remember the 90s still. People, like, the 90s is nostalgic to a lot of people. You can't remake that.
Yeah, especially now. Like, we even see with your favorite movie, The Lion King. Like, you can't go and remake that and people be satisfied. Like, they still remember what that original was, and they still love that original. Just avoid it, because you're never going to please people.
Yeah, remake. Yeah, definitely remake The Lion King. Never. But if you are going to do it, it has to be like 50 years later. You can't do it in less than 30 years.
Yeah, you can't have a whole generation of 30-year-olds that still love that movie and expect them to go and enjoy what that remake was.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I'm fully against remakes. I don't think there's ever a point to them. It's just a cash grab. And I mean, obviously, if Disney is pushing, Disney is one of the biggest cash grab companies out there. So if they're pushing out remakes, you know exactly the reason why. It's just they want more money.
Like they even have Mulan coming up shortly. Like, I can sort of see the benefit of doing stuff like that, where it's taking an old cartoon and then doing like a live action remake. But to do something like The Lion King, which was an animation, and then just doing basically modern day animation, it was just like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah, you didn't do anything special. Yeah, and with Mulan, they did say like Mulan's a horse of a different color. It's very there's not much singing, they said, within it. It's gonna be more of like a war drama. And I think they didn't even get the G rating. I think they had to go to PG or something, which was like a shocker that they had to like go up from their normal rating. And it's gonna be more like that. And even I would say their Jungle Book remake was almost as good, or even maybe a little bit better than the remake, only because they actually put an ending where, if you watch the animated Jungle Book, the movie doesn't really end, and it's also kind of short. Where in the remake, they added like 20 more minutes or something and gave a heart-filled ending within the film. But then you watch Beauty and the Beast or The Lion King and these other live-action remakes, and there's just nothing to it. You could just see that it's an empty shell, and you feel it too when you sit there.
Yeah, if it's just a beat-for-beat remake, it's kind of pointless. But if you're going to put in that effort and the money, you might as well reimagine it and improve on what was already there, or at least attempt to. Yeah,
if you're just gonna do the exact same thing just with a new filter on it, then just don't. It's that easy. It's easy enough to show someone, especially now with like Disney Plus, where the whole Disney Vault is up there. It's easier to show the old version of like Beauty and the Beast or The Lion King than to show the new one. The new one, I mean, is it a technical marvel? Yes. But it just feels like I'm watching National Geographic while listening to the Lion King playlist. It's not like I'm watching a movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you can't fault the technical prowess of that movie, but apart from that, it kind of lacks the soul of the original, I think.
Yeah, exactly. The whole movie, the whole sequel just lacks. I did not enjoy sitting in the movies and watching that at all.
What do you think of the Mulan release strategy?
I don't like it. I think it's not what, I don't know, because like you have to own Disney Plus. You have to pay a monthly subscription to Disney Plus to then pay the other $30 to watch Mulan. But if you don't, and it's like, oh, but you own the movie. It's not like it's on the streaming service. Yeah, but you still need the streaming service. So if I ever wanted to not have Disney Plus, then I don't have Mulan anymore. If I were to buy it on a different, like if I were to buy it on Vudu, even though I don't, like Vudu is a free streaming service, but you rent or buy movies on there. If I were to just buy it on there, I would always have, as long as I have my Vudu account, I always have the movies. And it's not like a Vudu account costs me anything per month to own. So it's like they're just taking your money more than once. I think what they should have done, but they're Disney and they're greedy and there's no way they would have. They should have said, they should have released it on like Amazon, Vudu, all the YouTube, all these other streaming services for like the normal $20 that we've been seeing from like Trolls World Tour or King of Staten Island, but then say, or you could watch it for free on Disney Plus. I think that will have driven them more money from people then getting Disney Plus subscriptions than being like, oh, you need Disney Plus and buy the movie.
Yeah, or if they wanted to get that $10 or $15 bump on top of Disney Plus, I think they should have done it maybe a month early. Like, if you have a Disney Plus account, you pay the 10 or 15, whatever figure they wanted to set. You get it a month early, but then a month later, it's going to be on everything for $30.
Yeah, or like just something. Because what happens? Like, you're not going to tell me Mulan is always going to be $30. So if I never pay that $30, you're going to tell me I'm never going to be able to watch this Mulan release? Or in a year, is it going to be down to like $5? And in a year and a half, will it be free? So then those people that paid $30, well, you're basically just taking the money from people that review movies. You're taking the money from them and from the people that are like huge film fans. But the everyday person will be like, oh, okay, I'll watch Mulan when it becomes free. And I feel like in the future it will be free. So what does that $30 price tag mean in 8 months? Like, does that even exist anymore? Or can I watch Mulan for free then?
Yeah, I can't imagine they'll keep that $30 forever. Like, surely at some point it just becomes part of the Disney Plus catalog.
Yeah, and if that's going to happen, then I don't see the point of like doing this quick cash grab.
Yeah, absolutely would have made more sense to just include it in Disney Plus and make Disney Plus more appealing.
Yeah, exactly. Especially like people are like concerned, they're saying, oh, this is just a one-off. Well, if it's successful, if they make even close to what the budget of the film is, you gotta know then Black Widow's coming out on Disney Plus. They're gonna start pulling all their titles. Like, so maybe, and then that's gonna, like, we already know the movie theater industry it's dying really quickly. The movie theater industry, and then it's just Disney's just trying to kill it quicker. And if this does work, and next thing you know, they're like, oh, this was a one-off, but we saw how successful this is, so now here's Black Widow for $30. And it's like, oh, that's successful. Like, well, maybe we'll put, I don't know, Shang-Chi for $30 too. And maybe only we show Avengers films in theaters, but all the films leading up to the Avengers films are $30 on Disney Plus. And it's like, I'm boycotting it, the Mulan, only because I want it to not be successful so they don't try to do this again.
Yeah, that's absolutely my concern too. If it is a huge success, do we see all those B-tier Marvel movies just become the Disney Plus exclusive with the little add-on purchase price, and then we only get the mainline movies in cinemas?
Yeah, and then if that does happen, then I would say the Disney Plus movies are going to get a lower budget. And if they get a lower budget, you're not going to get the cast you want, or you're not going to get the director you want. Like, take something like Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one. That was such a shot in the dark for Disney. But if that film went on a streaming service, and then James Gunn or Chris Pratt doesn't see that movie as that appealing anymore because it's just a streaming service movie, then that's a completely different movie. Or even if it's the same movie with Pratt and Gunn and everyone on board, but it's just on a streaming service, it doesn't see the eyeballs that it saw, and it doesn't become with like myself and a lot of people say like their number one favorite Marvel movie that has ever dropped. Like the first Guardians of the Galaxy, I think is the best movie they've ever made in Marvel. And if it doesn't get a theater release, you don't see that. And would it get a theater release? Because it's not that, like, it's almost like the Eternals. Does the Eternals get a theater release? It's like who knows anything about Eternals, just like how no one knew anything about the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, like it absolutely wouldn't have got anywhere near the levels of hype if it was just a streaming movie.
Yeah, like no one had a Star-Lord poster like in their bedroom before Guardians of the Galaxy got released. You can't tell me that the Guardians of the Galaxy fan base was that big before the movie dropped. And it's just the same way with Eternals. I can't even name an Eternal character. I can name some of the cast because they put a big cast on that, but there's not that much hype for it. But if it's a really good movie and it has that ability to be in the movie theaters, then I will go see it a lot quicker than I will if it has a $30 price tag on a streaming service.
Yeah, I think the phrase "I am Groot" was nothing until that movie. Yeah,
I don't even think Groot was a big character, and like because the cast that Gunn used, the Star-Lord, Gamora, Groot, Rocket. That's not even like the original Guardians of the Galaxy cast. You learn in Guardian it wasn't when the comic was released. It wasn't the first Guardians of the Galaxy where you see in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. It was like Sylvester Stallone's character. Miley Cyrus plays a robot. Like that was the original Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like this different, completely ragtag, and then Star-Lord and Star-Lord's group becomes the new Guardians of the Galaxy. So he didn't even take the original cast. That's like starting Iron Man with War Machine.
Yeah, true. It just wouldn't have worked anywhere near as well. So what is your top recommendation for this week?
My top recommendation, if you can find it, because again, it is on HBO Max, and I don't know how else it's being distributed. But if you can find an American Pickle, I would fully recommend you catch that. But if you can't, I would say go with Total Recall. You can never go wrong with a classic. What about yourself?
For me, I have to say watch The Boys, get prepared for Season 2. Because I think Season 2 is going to just step it up again now that they have the hype.
Yeah, I am definitely hyped for Boys Season 2. I can't wait.
So that's about all for this week. Thank you for listening to the commentary booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. You can follow me on social media at JamieAppsMedia, and you can follow Nick over on the Beer Latte Show. Where can people find that one?
You can find that anywhere you find your podcast: Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You just search the Beer Latte Show. You can even if you Google the Beer Latte Show, we're the first ones to come up.
You guys on social media as well?
Yeah, you can find us on Twitter at the Beer Latte Show, Instagram I think at just Beer Latte. Anywhere you just type in Beer Latte in social media and you'll find us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, and have fun when cinemas finally reopen.
Yeah, thank you. This was great. I'll love to come back and do this again.
The Commentary Booth is a fan-funded production of Jamie Apps Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine Jam Zine over on Patreon at patreon.com/Jamie Apps Media. The following people supported at the Jam publisher level or higher, and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support. Brian and June Hart, Courtney Paulson, Tracy Apps.